Part four of my medication history is pretty much just Entyvio. After establishing a new GI and finding out that I was still very, very sick on the inside, despite virtually no symptoms whatsoever, um, I still had all that inflammation and we had to do something about it. And I was very weary of any kind of medications or drugs because of that history and all the bad experiences I had with them up to that point. But this GI, he was really nice. I really liked the way he explained it to me, and he talked me into it. And for those that don't know, Entyvio is very similar to Humira in that it's a biologic and it's going to decrease the inflammation in the body by, I believe what it does is it actually just removes white blood cells or an excess amount of white blood cells. So your white blood cell count is normal to decrease the inflammation. But where it differs is that this is the way he explained it to me, so I don't really know like on the molecular, like a really complicated level how this works exactly. But the way he explained it to me is that Humira, once it's in your body, that's what it's going to do, is decrease the number of white blood cells. However, it's not limited to only your gut. It could, whether you need it to, keep those white blood cells down or decrease inflammation or not, it could travel to different parts of your body, different organs, and do unknown things. That's why when you see the commercials, there's so many just kind of odd side effects that are going to affect other parts of your body. And that's also why you see commercials for it, for treating so many different um, diseases that have to do with inflammation and high white blood cell count, is because once it's in your body, it could work anywhere. You don't know what it's going to do. In doing that, it might help your gut as well, but then you have all these other side effects, or it might not help at all, or it's sounds terrible. You want to put it that way. I know some people take it; it works great, and that's good for them. But unfortunately, I was one of the ones that didn't work so well for. So the way he explained Entyvio is that whatever they had done to it, it's only going to impact your guts. So he told me, short of being able to actually guarantee it, of course, that it would either help, probably put you in remission, or it wouldn't do anything. He was very confident there wouldn't be any side effects, or at least certainly not any of the really wild, just terrible side effects. So I did go ahead and take it. It's an infusion just like Remicade. And I was very nervous when I went in there the first time because, if you don't remember, this was a new doctor, but it was at the same clinic where I first went, where I first had my Remicade infusions, and I went into anaphylactic shock. So even though he told me also, he'd never heard of anything like that, and actually, I don't know if he said he'd never heard of anything like that, but just it wasn't. He assured me again. I don't remember exactly what he said off the top of my head, but he assured me that I could feel safe. That wasn't going to happen. And we also, at that point, we weren't really certain that it wasn't Benadryl that I didn't have a reaction to as well. So we didn't put any kind of like sedatives or Benadryl or anything. I was just going to go in there and take it and hope for the best and trust them. So it's a different room, but it's the same clinic, the same technician. About 9 or so years later, and they had started it, and I remember like I had that same tightness in my chest, and I kept breathing, but the only difference is I was taking full breaths, but I was just freaking out. Like, it was so uncomfortable. And I kept calling the nurse in. It's a small place. They just have the door open. So when you, at this point, you can really just kind of shout to them, as opposed to you having a little button near your bed. But I wasn't even in a bed. I was just sort of like in a reclined, just the chair, like when you go in for a checkup. And probably the third time I called the nurse in, I just told her I was freaking out. Like, I wanted to stop the infusion. I didn't know what was wrong. And she talked to me a little bit, and she was saying, just take a few deep breaths. I remember breathing, and when I did that with Remicade, like just before I could take that full deep breath, it would just stop, and it was a really weird feeling. And this wasn't happening this time, but it felt like it was. I don't. That probably doesn't make any sense. But she's telling me, she says, "Look, you're just having a panic attack. It's no problem. I have them all the time," is what she told me, and that kind of made me laugh. And I remember that calmed me down. And I was like, okay. And I remember checking my heart rate too, and it was normal. Well, it was probably a little bit fast because I was freaking out. But I mean, it wasn't like over 120 or anything, ridiculous like that. And I was like, okay, she's just having a panic attack. Like, I trust her. So I mean, the whole time I was wide awake on extremely high alert. But I got through it, and I didn't have any problems. I didn't stop breathing or anything like that. So apparently that was just my first and only legitimate, like real panic attack, where you actually have like a physical reaction to something that's essentially just in your mind. Um, and that was the first infusion. And I don't remember exactly how long they're spaced apart compared to Remicade, but it's similar. I want to say every 8 weeks, whatever it is. So I went in there, and it was hard to tell if it was working or not because I was pretty much asymptomatic to begin with. But we did that for a year, just to kind of cut right to it. And I don't think I had to do a full colonoscopy. I want to say that was the one where I swallowed the pill, which was also rather unpleasant, but still better than a colonoscopy, though. So I guess I shouldn't say it was that unpleasant. If I had to choose, I definitely would swallow the pill again. Um, but I think that's how they checked me this time. And after a year, my doctor was right. It didn't do anything for me, unfortunately. However, I didn't have any bad side effects whatsoever. It just virtually nothing happened, just like he, pretty much all but guaranteed me that would happen. So at this point, it was a little disappointing, but realistically, I tried so many things, both medications and naturally. And even though the natural path had the best results, I mean, nothing seemed to be getting me completely in remission. Um, so I didn't really have high hopes. I mean, I wasn't, in the back of my mind, like, maybe it'll work. It's worth the risk. But I think I just had more like a realistic expectation that, what, it's I've tried so many things. I think if something was going to work, I would have found it by now. So at this point, I was already seriously considering surgery. I pretty much decided that if this wasn't going to work, that was going to be the next step. So after it didn't work, that's when they went ahead and we started the ball rolling on making appointments, meeting with the surgeon, and doing all that. And at this point, after well, by the time we actually made the original appointment, it was for November 3rd, 2017, and then they ended up moving it back to or moving it forward to November 1st, 2017 is when I actually had my surgery. But at this point, as I said, I tried so many things and it's taken so long that, I mean, I was ready. I know some people, you have to have surgery because they're just in such bad shape. Like, it's got to come out as soon as possible. But it really was my call. It's kind of like, as long as I was able to maintain this diet, otherwise be healthy and feel pretty good overall. As long as I was getting annual screenings for colon cancer and checking for hyperplasia and all of that, it was my choice. I mean, I could have done this for a long, long time, but I felt like I'd put in enough time and I was just exhausted. And I'm sure in past videos, I don't remember exactly what I've said or not, but I was just looking forward to getting back to, or at least the thought of maybe being able to get back to things that I used to do, in particular eating, which, as you know, that's why I've made that the focal point after surgery, because I feel like that's what was impacted the most and limited the most because of my illness. And just the thought of being able to eat, not even completely freely, just more freely, was what I was looking forward to most. And I was like, it's a fair trade-off. I've fought for so long. I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. Like, it was just exhausting, and I felt like I was going in circles, and I wasn't going to see full remission. So it just, if nothing else, I knew there was no guarantee that the bag was going to let me do, everything that I wanted it to, and it might not be perfect, but I figured it would be better. So many people that I know online have said that it's better, even ones that do still have some problems with it. But at this point, I was like, I'm ready for some new problems because I just, again, I was so tired of doing the same thing, eating the same things every single day, being stuck at home. I wanted to move. I wanted to at least have a chance at somewhat of a real life. And that was primarily what influenced my decision at that point, that I was ready to make. Um, so that's where I was with that, and that's pretty much my history with medications or various treatments up until I had the surgery. There are two more that I want to talk about, but I want to dedicate a separate video to each one because I think they're a little bit more unique and kind of more fun in that I have some good stories about each one. And that would be acupuncture and marijuana, which I did legally in California. I went and saw a doctor. And not only that, but I didn't really do either one of those exclusively. They were kind of like just along the way, it came up and I tried it. So I was still kind of doing other things at the same time. So that's why I didn't really want to include them um, quite along the way. Whereas like some of these other medications were like took a lot more time, or when I went like doing the diet, the natural route was several years as well, whereas these other two were a little bit shorter along the way. But look out for those videos because I want to do them soon, and I'll probably go on Instagram and ask, especially with marijuana, what do people want to know specifically, because um, that was something else. I have some great stories about that, and yeah, I can't wait to talk about that with you all. So be on the lookout for those videos, and thank you all for watching. And I hope my journey with the medications and the natural route. I hope you found it relevant or possibly even useful just to your situation. And I do appreciate you all watching. So I'll see you next time.